evening, Dr. Bell. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. We have our parents, Sylvester and Mrs. Ume, also joining us today. I can see some of our other parents who are on board here with us, who have been part of the process. You're all welcome. Chinyelu, I think I can see you. Thank you for joining us. Everyone that is here, thank you so much for joining us. So like I said, this is a very important webinar. And the reason why it's important, you would sort of see why. And we take our time. We try and do it on Saturday to make sure that as many parents can join, because parents are very busy. So that's why we try and do it on a Saturday. So I'm going to start with my slides to just sort of talk through the process with you a little bit in a way where it flows with what Dr. Bell is going to speak about later. Well, the critical thing is to take notes and, we have this recording and then ask questions, like I said, because when we started this process we actually started last year. And there were so many things that we had to learn along the way as well, starting it. But we know that now with some of the stuff that we know, it makes it easier to now flow with this. Global has been around for over 20 years. We've had students who we have applied for global students, for scholarships, but now we have opened it up to the whole world, as it were. So it's not just for global students. So we had to do it in a way that it was more structured. One of the things that we knew that we needed, that was important, was to make sure we had an expert in this area, someone who understands the system in the US. And that's why we brought Dr. Bell on board. And I hope also, we are hoping that one of our other partners will be here. I don't know if they're here. If you are here, please, later on, I think Michael Lawson, Erica, I don't know if they're here, to talk about the US diploma. And I'll tell you later why that's important. Like I said, when we started this process, we now realized that some things were going to be impeded the process, and we decided to say, let's look at other partnerships to make sure that this works. So this is me and Global International College, strategic placement, and all the other things. Okay, so this is a little bit. Now I wanted to talk about, I hope you can see my slides well. It's a little bit whatever for me, but let's see if I can shut this down. Okay, the first one. Okay, so we're going to be talking about scholarships today, and we're going to be talking about admissions and scholarships. And in the first one, you can see there's what we call the full tuition scholarships. So when a lot of people apply for scholarships, a lot of students apply for scholarships, people are looking at different scholarships and saying, what really do I have the criteria to be able to get an award of scholarship? Or how do I even go about the process? So there are different types of scholarships. So it's a full tuition one, which is full tuition. And in most cases, what we try and do for our students is to apply to make sure they have 4 years. Then you have the merit-based scholarship, which is also, could be tuition only, and it could be full ride. When you talk about full ride, it says you have a full ride. It's just like free ride, you don't need to pay anything. But with merit-based, it's still a tuition, but it's based on academic achievement. Whereas when you look at the full tuition, you can take other things into consideration as well. And you have the athletic scholarships as well for students who excel in sports. So these are the full ride scholarships are extremely competitive, like a lot of our parents had seen, because we tried that, but you see the reason why these are very competitive. You can get them, students can get them, but there is a huge amount of preparation that goes towards getting the full ride, which means if I don't want to pay anything, maybe just pay for health insurance or just stuff, but they pay for everything for me, it's very, very competitive. So in most cases, students we're looking at what does it take to be able to get some of the scholarships. Some of them might be part scholarship, some might be full ride, but there is a criteria. And I know that Dr. Bell will also talk to that, but I'll speak a bit to that. Please kindly mute. Thank you. So talking about the criteria, because when you say, everybody wants to go to college free. Now that, the Naira is just doing some somersaults on us. And I know some currency, not just the Naira, even in Africa, we're having challenges because our currency is not, our Naira, our means of exchange of money is not as strong as the dollar. It's not as strong as the pound. But we also love our children to have the best education. Nigerians are very, very passionate about education. Most of us were trained out of the country. So we definitely would want our children to be the same. But you have to be qualified for these things. Like I said, there was a bit of confusion on that. And that's why we said we would do this webinar to make sure that expectations are properly managed. So a student who comes and says, I have a 3.0 GPA, I did a few extracurricular, I didn't even do any. I would like to have a full ride. It's not easy to get a full ride in that case. So one of the things that they're going to criteria is exceptionally high GPAs. If you're looking at the end of the scale and you want a fully paid scholarship, you must have exceptionally high GPAs. How do we calculate your GPAs? It's your IGCSEs, it's your WAEC results, it's your NECO results, it's the scores you get in Edexcel in your secondary. And you see why this is important, because senior secondary starts from SS1. So we're telling parents to make sure that you start preparing them from SS1 to make sure that they have high scores, and they get A's and B's. If you don't get A's and B's in WAEC and IGCSE, it becomes tough to move as close to 4.0 GPA. So exceptionally high GPAs, 3.8 and above, would put you in a position to apply for a full ride. If your consistent GPA is between 3.5 and 4.0, and you're getting this kind of grades from JSS1, and because they're going to be asking you for your transcripts from junior secondary as well. If you've been a consistent student and you get about a 3.5 GPA to about 4.0, then you can qualify for full tuition, partial scholarships, even sometimes, like I said, full ride. But it really depends on what you show to the admission officers. SAT scores have to be very high. A lot of people think, oh, some colleges are SAT optional, but it's not so. If you're competing and you want scholarship, they are going to look at your SATs because they're going to have to look at you as compared to other students all over the world. Dr. Bell will talk to you about the millions that are applying from India, from China, from Canada. She has a lot of clients who apply every day, and Nigerian students have to compete against these people. We have students who have gotten full ride in Nigeria who have done very well, but we must prepare our young people. If there's anybody who's a school owner here who owns a secondary school, we need to do a little bit better than what we're doing now to prepare them. Because when they come to us, we find that there's so many things that are missing. It becomes difficult. For graduate applicants, if you're going for your master's, also you must have a GPA between 3.5 and 4.0. GRE must be close to 340. GMAT must be close to 800. So, and you must have very good AP subjects if you are going for undergrad. And your score must be between 4 or 5, demonstrating understanding and mastery. This is the touchy one. This is the touchy one, internships and work experience during holidays. A lot of young people in Nigeria, up till now, I'm speaking to some young people now who I want to process for scholarship, and they're telling me they're going on holidays. Our young people have to start working during holidays if they are going to qualify for top scholarship, top dollar. They have to start working. These are the things when I attended so many meetings. Sometimes myself and Dr. Bell were on Zoom with parents for 2 hours, 3 hours at the initial stage, going through all of these things, asking this question. She's asking this question. I'm like saying to myself, Dr. Bell doesn't know this is Nigeria. She sort of thought it was the US, because US students start working from the age of 17, even younger. They're already, even younger in high school, in middle school. They start volunteering, they start working. So she assumed that it was the same thing in Nigeria, but it's not so. And so we now need to know that if you want to prepare your young people, if you have, even in primary school, if you have them in primary school, you have them in junior secondary school, they need to start volunteering during the summer. If they're old enough to go somewhere and, like, if you want to be a doctor or you want to be a nurse, you need to go shadow in the hospital. If you want to work in tech, you need to go to a company and understand what it is to work in tech. So these are the things that have to go on the resume, because she will prepare a resume, she will ask questions, she'll prepare a resume, but that resume has to be solid, because when she's presenting them before decision makers, they are comparing our students to US students who have gotten internships since the age of maybe 18, 17. So there's a lot of competition out there. So we also need very strong letters of recommendations from counselors and teachers. And when I say strong, some of our young people have been a little bit naughty, and they forget that a suspension or something that happened, or you get a demerit, or you get told off, it's going to affect your recommendations from your teachers. So we need to speak to them and let them know that, you are going to save daddy and mommy a lot of money. You need to behave yourself. I need you to have a very clean record. So these are very important things. Extracurricular, this is the one where we fall flat in Nigeria. We do not do enough extracurricular. I will show you a slide that tells you exactly what I'm talking about. Students are getting full ride just because they have extensive extracurricular. Some of them might not get a GPA of 4.0, it might just be around 3.5, but because of their extracurricular and because of their volunteering, because they're looking at students who would make impact. How would I want to give money to people, to someone who is not going to use it and make impact? So you have to be showing from a young age that you know exactly what you're doing, that you're a focused young person, and you're already contributing in Nigeria, looking, maybe tutoring other students. I'll show you some examples of what we mean when we say extracurricular. Unfortunately, a lot of students will tell you that their schools don't do that. In Nigeria, we focus a lot on academic. And that's where I say we fall short. That's why I said I needed to come here sort of to talk about some of the issues we're having. So if you have your child in SS1 in junior, please take into consideration the things I'm talking about today. These are the issues. These are the issues. We cannot, if you want a job in a top, you want to go to Harvard, you can't just say I participated in a debate and I did this, and you think they're going to take you and give you scholarship. They won't, because they're looking at, this young person must have done a lot. And then essays, personal statement and essays. This is also a touchy one. Some of our students are not writing essays as well as they should. And these essays, because in some instances, they can't actually be there. So the admission officers are looking at the essays and they're sort of understanding the child and where the child is coming from. So they have to be able to write excellent essays. Interview performance, there's so many interviews that Dr. Bell has had to attend with some of our students, and she had to prep them for interview to make sure that they're saying the right thing. So please continue to put your questions in the chat. And also, you might also want to put why you're here, to maybe what you need to understand or what you need to know as well. You can just put your name and say, I'm from so. This is what I would like to know about, in case I don't mention it. And if you have a question, please put it in the chat. Leadership skills, very important. Volunteering, very important. And you can see I'm focusing on this. If I was doing a webinar on UK and Canada, I'm not going to be talking about all of those things, because they don't really ask. UK is like, just give me the results and you're in. But then at the end of the day, when you go to a UK university, maximum £5,000 if you're a good student. They will not give you $100,000 or more. They won't. So they're not particular. Whoever is giving the more money to you wants to know they're giving it to the right candidates. So that's why it's important. It is not a free gift. The candidate must qualify for it. Like I've talked about, strong character, unique talents and attributes. A lot of our young people are very talented. They can play the piano, they can play, but it's not recorded anywhere. Nobody takes into consideration. Parents are like, she just likes to play, but this is what gets the money. That's unique talent. She likes to act. No, she's acting too much. These are the things that we need to record. We have to take cognizance and recognition that this young person is talented. And this is what I need to start recording from junior or even primary school. And then to ensure that I encourage my young person to go to clubs, to join clubs, or to ensure that this particular area is built up and it is recognizable. And it is something that when she's putting together her resume, she has gotten awards or leadership positions or stuff like that in school. So exceptional abilities in art, athletics, strong resume. Students must have a very strong resume. What are the kind of extracurricular we're looking at? Student government. In global, we have a student government. I always encourage the students what they do is they will come together as a democratic process. They will choose the president, vice president. When I'm swearing them in, I always say to them, this is so important. Don't take it lightly. Because one day you're going to say to an admission officer, I was the president of my school and this is what I did. So leadership and decision-making skills, very important from student governorship. Academic competitions. I remember one day, Dr. Bell was talking to one young person and said, have you been in the hackathon? Have you done an hackathon? And no. And these things do happen in Nigeria. We have a lot of tech companies that are doing hackathons. They have, there's one, I have about 3 or 4 or 5 now. We did one last week in Global, Airbus. Airbus came around and our students went and they did a lot of demonstrations, looking at aviation industry. These are the things that they need to know. They have to be involved in STEM. That is the way to go. So robotics, science, maths, teamwork, sports, very critical. That's how they sort of look. And when you do sport, you are demonstrating leadership. You're just demonstrating teamwork, performing arts, visual arts, debate, or model United Nations, speaking, there's junior achievement. There's so many opportunities. For example, now our students that are joining our boot camp are going to be part of 2 organizations in Yaba. One is a free school that is owned by an alumni of Global International College, Dami. She set up a free school. Our students are going to be joining and they're going to be taking part in ensuring that the young people get an education. We have another orphanage called Jackin, and she looks after orphans, she looks after widows. So they're going to be taking part in that. It's going to be done, And then some of you have churches where your young people can be taking part in different things in the churches. Then internships, I've mentioned that, practical experience. Science and research projects, they need to get involved. Entrepreneurship, have they set up a business? Have they set up a magazine? Have they done something that during the holidays, they're making money from it and doing stuff, business creation, cultural clubs, peer tutoring and mentoring. Who are they mentoring? Who are they tutoring? Did they have a STEM club? Did they set one up? And when we're talking about this extracurricular, decision makers want to see leadership. Not that I was part of a STEM club and that's it. No, but I set one up. I put one together and this is what we did. And we did this and we called a lot of young people because we're trying to encourage women in STEM in Nigeria. And we were able to mentor them. We had programs. It is things like that that is concrete that they're looking at. Coding clubs, environmental clubs. We have so many challenges and environmental issues in Nigeria. Schools have to start to do this. School newspapers, stuff like that. So these are the things that are needed when we are putting together an application for a student. It's like you're trying to get a job in CBN as a CBN governor. your CV must be loaded. It must be loaded. It's different from somebody who is trying to get a job to be a cleaner in CBN. It has to be loaded with a lot of information. That is what it takes. So let me talk a bit about the application deadlines. Like I said, a lot of people do not know that if you want to be in a position to apply to top universities and for scholarships, there are deadlines that you must. So if your child is going to college next year, August next year, the deadline is this year, November 1st. There's also a January deadline, but the earlier the child gets in, the better for the child. Because we are even pushing to make sure our young people get in by August, because Common App opens in August. So we are pushing because the earlier they see the application, they'll know that, oh, this young person has been preparing for the last 3 years or 4 years, and all her stuff was ready, and everything just goes in at the same time, and that gives her priority as against other students. So important to meet these deadlines. That's why we're doing this webinar, because now we're in May. June, July, August, results will come out. September, October, November, 3 months. Some students haven't done their SATs. Some are going to have to do WES evaluation. So there's so much to do, but I'll go through that. Let me quickly go on. And of course, there's a regular decision. If you cannot meet the early regular, but everybody joins the regular pool. And of course, we have the rolling admission as well. I'm just touching on these things. So if you have questions, Dr. Bell will answer them later. I'm just touching on them. So when we now look at scholarship application deadlines, most of them, like I said, if you're applying for scholarships, deadlines are usually because of the early action and then regular action and all of that. So from October to March. So some do have by October. If you haven't applied November, then you can't do it. But it rolls on depending on the university. So, we just make sure we meet all the deadlines. And then, of course, they review your application. It takes about 1 to 5 months. And then they start notifying you, of whether you have an award or not. And that also goes from about 1 to 5 months post deadline, after the deadline is over. So a lot of parents have, in fact, parents put me under stress this time. Where is the scholarship? I said, look, there's a process. There's a process. Universities have to, first of all, give you admission. We go through Common App. After they give you admission, from there, they now start working on the scholarship. They'll tell you a bit more about that, So, and in some cases, there are delays depending on what they're looking at. So up till now, we're still working on scholarship for some of our students. So it's not automatic like that. There's a process, and it depends on the university. Okay, so this is like, why are we even doing this at all? Why are we even doing this? Even if we use the average tuition in 4 years in Nigeria and use 1,450 to the dollar, and you get a scholarship of tuition, not even full ride. I'm not even talking full ride right now. And you get a tuition in 4 years, $70,000. You are saving 102 million naira. You are already saving quite a lot of money. So sometimes when you do get if you don't meet the criteria for full ride, and you meet the criteria, or your university doesn't do full ride, and you meet the criteria for 4 years tuition, or even 2 years, it's still a saving. It's still a lot of money. Still a lot of money. My daughter went through college. She graduated 2 days ago in information system. All throughout when she was in college till the last year, I did not get a scholarship for her. It was the last year that I had to go literally beg them, and they gave me maybe $5,000. I haven't spent nothing less than about, 50 or something like that with accommodation and everything per year. I didn't get anything, and that's part of what pains me. And I thought, wow, I need to do more for Nigerian students. Even with her master's, she only got something just last semester. So when parents come and say, oh, this is, I said, fine, if you feel this is easy, it's good to go ahead and do it. I did it, I couldn't even get it. So that's why we feel that we need that expertise to come on board to help us. So this is a kind of savings. In summary, you see the acceptance rate of some of the universities. MIT is 4%. A lot of Nigerian parents will say, I want my child to go to MIT. 4% acceptance rate. Before that child can be in that acceptance rate, all of the things I spoke about, that child must have it. To even be admitted in the first place, not to talk of scholarships. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But when we do get there, even if you get a merit scholarship or you get 4 years tuition, you are saving a huge amount of money. If I was able to save this money for my own children, I would have been very happy. So that's the way this thing is working. So we're grateful to God when we do get scholarship. Even if I get 2 years scholarship, I'm grateful to God. If I get 4 years, more so. If I get a full ride, I'm praising the Lord for forever. And it's wonderful, and students are getting it. But we have to package our students to get the best. Okay, so very, very important. Like I said, the journey must start early. It must start from junior secondary. Otherwise, the horse will have bolted by the time they start in senior. The horse will have bolted. All the things that they are supposed to have put in place, they would not have put in place. WAEC and IGCSE exams are written at the end of senior secondary, but it's a combination of what they're doing in year 10 to year 11. It's a combination of SS1 to SS3. If they don't study and make sure that they're getting good grades from SS1, by the time they get to WAEC or do the IGCSEs, they will not have the GPAs that they're looking for. They also have to be prepared with PSAT. From SS1 to start with the PSAT to get, because even in the process of applying for a scholarship, even PSAT scores are important because everything will have to be filed. SAT scores, best SAT scores are important. AP scores are important. All those things help to prove that this child is academically good. So it has to start early. If they start in junior secondary and they start to do very robust extracurricular and having tech classes, it helps the application. That's why I said you cannot wait till SS3 and start the packaging. The horse has already bolted by then. The students you are competing against started from junior secondary. Some started from SS1. So if anybody is here, I guess most people that are here are in West Africa or Africa. So talking about secondary school, I'm talking about high school is a bit different in the US, but for us, it's a secondary school. We have the 3 years junior and we have the 3 years senior secondary school. Some students do IGCSEs and they finish in the 5th year. Some go on to WAEC and it's 6 years. So when we prepare students in global, junior secondary school, what we focus on is extracurricular essay preparation. Sorry, there's a mistake there, was a typo. In SS1, we look at PSAT. Then we have this program. I don't know if the gentleman is around. The reason why we introduced the dual diploma program was we have a bit of a challenge with WES. WES, if you have done WAEC or IGCSE, you have to evaluate your grades during the WES. WES has to evaluate those grades and send it direct to the universities. I'll talk about that later. So in SS2, SS3, they also, now we're introducing the US diploma, we're introducing the US diploma. So that US diploma is starting from SS1. I hope the gentleman is here to speak a little bit about that. And then we're also having tech classes. We have tech classes now. Also, the RISE program has to start, which is a scholarship program. It has to start in SS1. You cannot start it in SS3. So you can see why you have to go back. If you want to pack money, have plenty money, you have to start early. In SS2, SS3, we continue, and from the PSAT, it goes on to the SAT or the ACTs. The diploma continues, the RISE program continues, extracurricular, internships, AP classes, boot camp. Sixth form, after they've even completed the admission in November, when they join us in September, they start all their AP classes. These are all very important qualifications. Extracurricular, essays, internship, and then visa preparation. So that's the process. Now, what's the roadmap? So the roadmap for students who want to go in 2025 for scholarship, starting from now. We're starting with the boot camp, which starts from June. Exams are over in June, WAEC exams, IGCSE, all of them, most of them are going to be over by June. So we want parents to start registering. So please put a link in the platform and the flyer for the boot camp in the platform so parents can see it. So it's an intensive boot camp because we have up till November to apply for the top universities to meet the early action and the early decision deadlines. That's why this boot camp is important. If students are going off and they're going on holidays, some of them can join us online, but it's not the same. So in this boot camp, the deadline, like I said, the period we're doing it is June to August. We're going to be looking at essays, looking at extracurricular, I've spoken about that. The next SAT exam in that period, after they finish their exams, is August 24th. They are going to be prepped for the SAT exams. SAT, like I said, is a very, very important component of what a student must have a score in. Then we want to start the common application. It opens in August 2024. Like I said, if you are working with us, we have students who are working with us now. We are already compiling their documents, their recommendations from school, their transcripts from school, working with them with essays. All of these things is being done so that when the common application opens in August 2024, a lot of stuff has been done. But WAEC results are released in August. This has to be evaluated by WES. WES has been delaying WAEC evaluation. Normally, it's supposed to take a few weeks. For some of our parents, it's taking more than 2 months. But we don't have a choice because we have to wait for those WAEC results or the IGCSE results. As soon as we get them, parents have to go into the WES platform. All of this will help you with. Once they're with us during the boot camp, we will work with them on all of this. And that's why I said we have another alternative now of the dual US diploma. Students who are joining us, who are in other schools, who are in SS1, going into SS1, can join the US diploma. And the US diploma is for 3 years. They can join the US diploma. By the time they complete it in the 3rd year, the results are out in May. It does not need to be evaluated like. Even if it's evaluated, they just upload it because it's a US certificate. So when they look at it, it's just exactly what high school students are getting. So they don't need to evaluate it. It's from a US organization. So that's one of the reasons why we said, how do we avoid this delay from WES? Some of these delays affect the admission and scholarships because our exams are late in the day. They are released late in the day. Our exams take into consideration because they're local exams. A British exam is saying that you're not going to university in September. So it's okay if I release your results in August or whatever. Nigerian exams, you're not going to university, but US resume in August. So everything, so admission officers have done all their work way back. They take a whole year to do this. So early admissions deadline, like I said, November, January. So what did I say? To repeat myself, to emphasize, if you want to go to college, to university in the US, you want to apply for admissions next year, 2025, the process starts this year. Your applications must be in by November. Some applications can be in for January, but please, we prefer for it to be in before November, preferably by October. Work with us on this, and then we will all be happy. If you don't work with us on this and you come to us in January and you don't get the results you want, then we will all be unhappy. So I'm just saying this just to say that there's certain things that happened in the last period that we kept saying, let us start your application in time. Parents kept pushing it, but in the end, it didn't really work out the way it should. The final SAT exam is in December. Once you do an SAT, for example, and a student gets maybe 1,300, they can continue to do it. Once you have filed your application by the deadline, you can continue to put stuff in the portal or send it to the university admission officers. Scholarship awards will start from December to May 2025. AP exams are May 2025, next year. But they start with us in September. We start AP classes from September, and it goes on, and they do the exams in May. And enrollment in college next year is August. In between this thing is visa. And you know that the visas, I think they started opening the portal for students to start taking dates for visas now. So visa is also a consideration if you are not a US citizen. Visa is a consideration that you have to think about. So these are the SAT dates in 2024. These are the dates. So these are the opportunities that students have. We can also do ACT as well, but we put the SATs here. The opportunities for students can have to improve their SATs. Like I said, it's absolutely critical that students do the August one. If you intend, if you're an SS3, if your child is an SS3, and if your child is not in SS3, they can still try it. If they're in SS2, they're not doing anything during the summer, they join the boot camp with us and do the SATs. Get a stab, an attempt at it, so they know exactly what they're up against. SAT is not why, it's a different ballgame. They need to know what they're up against. Always bear in mind when you think about the table I showed you about the money you're going to be saving, you will go after your young people. Okay, so this is WES. This is the complicated part of WES. WES must evaluate the WAEC or the IGCSE. and they will not accept a certificate that is uploaded in West, as opposed to a US diploma. It is accepted because it's a US diploma. It is being awarded by a US organization. You have to go to WIAC, or you have to literally go to WIAC, because apparently there's so many reasons why they wouldn't do that. We all know what happens sometimes. And WIAC is the one that will send the results to the university that you have chosen. So that's the process. Cambridge Examination Board will send the IGCSE results to the university as well. That's the process for West. West is very, very important. So parents, please note, some of these things, a lot of parents joined us and they had never heard of West before. So this is the US diploma that I was talking about. It's 15 credits. It starts in SS1. And for international students who want to study in the US. So that it spans the 3 years, 15 credits from the high school, 15 credits from our school with the 5 credits from the US high school is combined to make the 20 credits. So they're going to take into consideration what our students do from SS1 as well, and they will combine it. So they'll have a 20 credits, and then they'll be able to issue a diploma by May. So that's the beauty about this, and I'm excited about this for students who are in SS1 to join this. So this just talks a little bit about what the US diploma is going to do, and of course, the universities accept it, and then you can get scholarships based on this when you go to universities, So, and of course, this is Dr. Bell, who's going to be speaking to you soon, and she's our partner. She's done a lot of great work. She's done a lot of scholarships. She's worked with our parents. Some of our parents will talk to us today on their experience. Our young man will talk to us also. So that's Dr. Bell. Now, I just wanted to talk about one of her students that she shared with me. Just to let us know what we're up against. When I was going through this young man's, what he had done, I was not surprised that he got 4 full ride scholarships at $2.5 million. So this young man, obviously, and he got admission into Harvard, Yale, Princeton, 25 other colleges, and accumulated about $2.5 million. And he has been working leadership roles, served this STEM contribution, creative talent, peer recognition. These are the things that he had done to be able to achieve what he achieved. And he was able to amass, because 4 full ride from top universities is the way to go. So this is what it takes. We also have our own, one of our students, it's not global student, but you guys must have heard about her, who is also a Nigerian student, who won the prestigious Rice Scholarship in 2022. She also gained admission into, she's a current student now, into 11 top universities. She got $5 million in scholarship. But this young girl started all of this from SS1. She started from SS1. She did a lot of extracurricular. She worked with schools, helping children and all of that. She excelled in the Young Tycoons Business Challenge, an app designed to address insecurity in Nigeria. And she had extraordinary performance when she was at Green Springs. Had innovative. So it is possible, but we have to compare our candidates that we are presenting to these candidates. I'm not saying that everybody is going to be like this, obviously. Not everybody is going to be like this, but we want to get as close to this as possible so that at least if we can attempt to get the full ride. And if we do not attempt, if we can't get the full ride, at least we'll get the full tuition or merit. Now, generally, from the applications, not all of them are like this, but most of our students, this is what we have to show in most cases. So when you compare this slide, yes, very, very, very few extracurricular, or most of them. Average essay writing. SAT scores will probably be 1,300. Some do have more than that. You'll see some of our top students that I'll show you. Average GPA, about 3.5. So we have to do better than this. I need our students to do a lot more. So if you're a parent who is here and you have children who are in junior secondary school, I'm actually speaking to you. For senior secondary school, we can still do something, but full ride might not be possible like that unless the child has been working, or if you can show evidence that the young child has been working since SS1 and has accumulated all of this. But by the time we looked at some of the resumes, we didn't see too many things that would wow an admission officer to say, You're coming to my school, you don't need to pay anything. So that's the difference. Okay, so with our consultants, working with her, these are the things, services she will talk about. This is a 5-month program. She'll talk about it later. And this is what she does with our students. So assistance, I mean, she's been fantastic. In fact, kudos to Dr. Bell for the Nigerian students. She really has worked hard. I mean, I'm here and because for her, it's, right now, I think it's about, what's the time? You know, when it's 12 in CCS, we're 6 o'clock here. So when I'm working here, sometimes I'm so tired, you know, and I'm working into 11 p.m. sometimes with her on the parents and child conference. And she's painstakingly going through some of those things, painstakingly. She'll meet them with essays, look at the essays, and then, you know, look at the application, advice on the best course. You know, sometimes we have to know that it's not just the money that matters, parents. It's not just the money. There are so many things other than just the money. It is also important where this young person goes for the future as well. So trying to get the best university that fits this young person is important as well. And then getting a mix of university. Like some parents will come and say it's all Ivy League. Hello. If you say it's all Ivy League, and you see the acceptance rate is 7% in most of them, then you are going to be putting all your eggs in one basket. So she's going to advise you on the mix. She has advised on the courses. She advised on the, oh my goodness, the internships to do, and she's working, she has a partner that works on internships that every child that goes through us will get an internship. Internship is so important. It's so important. After the students get there, you don't even, and you get a waiver of some of the fees. When they finish 4 years, they have to get a job. What happens if you pay all the school fees or you don't even pay school fees and they don't get a job? So she definitely makes sure that by the time they finish their freshman, she wants to make sure that they settle down in their freshman, they are acclimatized to the US. By second year, she's working on getting them internships that is connected to their course. So they are having job experience. So some of the programs that she's doing with us, she's prepping students for SATs, and they'll join online for 5 weeks. That's part of what is happening. So some of our SAT students as well, some of the pictures of our top SAT students who have done well in the past, some of our SAT students, 1,005. So it's a lot of work to get them to this level. You know, we have to do a lot of work to get them to this level. So those are some of our SAT students, you know. And then some of the scholarship awards that we got for our students, totaling about 600,000. That is the current year that we just finished. So these are the awards that we got, the letters for the scholarships and all of that. And then in terms of applying, some of the documents that you have to have in place to start, you know, your international passport, the data page, transcript from SS1 to SS3, like I said, AAP, test scores, essays, recommendation letters, resume and CV, portfolio if you're an art student or drama student, your WAEC converted results, or the US diploma if you do the diploma with us. So we have the starter kits in our, so what we've done is to make sure that we have all the starter kits. Once you pay the consultancy for all the work we're doing, we allow you to, we give this to you. It takes you through the whole process I'm talking about. It makes life easier. So some of our flyers that we have distributed, some of them for opportunities to apply for scholarships. And then of course, the last one, it is the summer camp, the boot camp that starts in June. And in this program, in the boot camp, that starts in June, we want parents and students to start registering for this. It's going to be 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day because it's a lot of work. It can be physical and online. It can be a combination of both. Preferably physical if you can come. If you're out of the country, you can work out an online preparation as well. You can join the classes. And it's going to be covering SAT and ACT tutoring towards the SAT exam in August. We're going to be looking at university admission preparation, all those things I talked about. We're going to be looking at the portfolio, doing workshops for students, university application and scholarship essay workshops to prepare their essays as well. Start working. Like I said, please bear in mind, we're working towards that deadline. And we want to file these applications as soon as we can get the WEST evaluation, because WEST is important. You can file an application, but you still need your GPA to go into it. Visa preparation workshops. A lot of our students need to be prepped for visa. And parents have come to me and said, okay, fine, during the bootcamp, we can work with them on how to be confident when you go to attend a visa interview. Every student has to attend a visa interview. You have to know your university. You have to know why you're going there. And for Christ's sake, you are not going to tell them you're not coming back. You have to tell them that, once I go, these challenges we have in Nigeria with water, I'm going to go and study environment, I'm coming to, things like that. Some students go there and say, oh, when I get there, I'm Jack Ryan. Of course, no visa. So we have to prep them very well. Then we are also having web design, AI, coding, and robotics classes. Like I said, tech certifications are very important, particularly if you're in the tech program. You're doing a tech program, but even if you're not, it helps your resume to see that you are such a well-rounded young person. And we're also looking at extracurricular during that time. I've mentioned 2 organizations, internship and job placements as well. As much as possible, we will try and work with parents that can get them internship and job placement. It is important for this program at that time. So I think that's basically it. These are details here. Strategic, if you want anything from us, you can reach out to us. I know a lot of stuff have been put online on the platform for you to click on the links, register for the camp. Anything question you have for us, you can just reach out to any of our staff who will be very happy to work with you, and go to our websites as well. So thank you so much for listening to me. That's from me. So I would be, if do you want me to share for you, or you want to share? Before, just to have a bit of a break in this, I don't know if just a little bit, Mrs. Ume, are you around?
Yes, Mr. Sime, good evening.
Good evening. Can you just talk to us a bit? Let's have a bit of a break so that our parents who has had the experience can speak to us. Can you just talk to us a bit about the journey for Sylvester for scholarships, in terms of how this has been for you, and later I'll ask Sylvester to speak, but just to talk before Dr. Bell comes on.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, fellow parents. Okay, so for me, I think I would like to begin from the motivation. First of all, I think it was around you're hanging out with a lot of close family friends that had actually gone through this process, and they encouraged me that it was possible. Okay, and then I also took courage in the fact that with brilliant performance, somebody could actually get very great scholarship. So I think we started thinking about this whole thing from SS2, okay? And then we went in from there. One thing I knew that would make a difference was access to information. So I remember in your last webinar, Madam Susime, I think my husband got a wind of it. I think it was in White Sands platform. And we said, okay, let's listen. And so I think access to great information matters. And that's where I needed to make a lot of clarifications on what exactly is the course of study, which best schools are good at what. Then that was the first time I came in contact with that WEF, right? Access to information mattered. And I think that came very strongly from Dr. Bell. Another great inspiration was also the fact that Dr. Bell was able to help us in some of the interviews in some of the schools we engaged. The Honors College, I mean, I never heard about those things. So through Dr. Bell in question, we're able to have those very great conversations. And the prepping he gave my son, Sylvester, also gave him, that renewed confidence. In fact, when those interviews were going on, from the side. I was really, admiring, the way he was taking up those questions like a proper, worker, so to say. I was really impressed, and I think I wouldn't take that for granted in any way. Another thing I would say my role was throughout this process was more of enriching, because I had to also be on his toes. Have you done this? Have you done that? Have you called this person? Have you called that person? The deadline is this. Has that deadline been, met and all that? So for me, I think those were the great inspirations and what I can say that I really took here and has been very, very transformative in experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mama. I know that your husband was also there with him. You guys were very, very, very supportive. Yes. Very, very supportive, and that really paid off. And he was also extremely diligent, extremely. Sylvester was extremely, I was very proud of Sylvester. He was always texting, he was emailing. And one of the things that Dr. Bell always said to me at the early stages that, Bola, your students have to come out as independent of their parents. They have to come out, because when they're meeting decision makers, they want to know that this young man has an independent mind, or young woman, and therefore parents should not do too much for them. Though you can do it in the background, but when they meet with decision, and like the interviews, like you were so proud of him, he was able to answer questions. So parents, it's part of training our young people to be confident, to be able to talk to a visa officer, or to be able to talk to a decision maker, a dean, or something like that. So it's all part of the process of what we're trying to do. Thank you so much for that. We might ask you more questions later, but let me let you be for now, and then bring Dr. Bell on. Dr. Bell, I can share your slides. Okay.
And you could just start from the slide with our picture, because you had already gone over all that other information.
Yes, I've already sort of separated it actually. So let me run this. So over to you, Dr. Bell, and just Wonderful. Tell me when to change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the call, and thank you so much from Sylvester's mom. Sylvester was also awarded an internship, but I really want to talk to parents about that first year. When your visa does not allow you to come over more than 30 on your first Oh, I'm sorry. Blue?
What your mommy to start, please. They might be asking for their mommy. Can I? You are there. Mommy, can I?
Did. Okay, thank you. So what we try our very best to do is to make sure that students can have an internship prior to going to school. But if your visa does not allow you to come to the United States by May, you wouldn't be able to get your internship until after your first year. So my name is Dr. Valencia Bell, and I'm the founder of Schools. Success can happen out of low scores. So just give you a little bit about how competitive it was. When I was applying for school, I had a 26 on the ACT when I was 12 years old. Most of the students that I competed against had already taken the ACT and the SAT in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. But I was blessed to be able to get $3 million in scholarships and able to take home $400,000 of that as my own. And so what we try to do is to make sure that the students that come through this program are not only positioned to get scholarships, but are also positioned to go into industry with internships so that when they graduate, they are ready for top tier so that they can be employed. Next slide. All right. So if you look at our social impact, we are a globally certified benefit corporation. We've helped over 250,000 students and student athletes to get scholarships. We've gotten about 250 million scholarships through the end of 2023. We've not put in our 2024 numbers yet. Most importantly, we want to make sure that students get the maximum amount of money that they can qualify for so that they do not have to take out student loans or have 3 generations of debt. Next slide. All right. So when we talk about skillful intention and downstream focus, I'm so glad that Ms. Osame shared with you that it is skillful intention. We had some very, very talented students that we worked with last year. And it's so important that you take the time to really realize what it is you want to major in. Because if you're applying for scholarships and you apply to the wrong school with the wrong major, it's going to make it very difficult for you to be placed in the right job when you graduate. So we start in the US and globally giving test prep as early as the third grade. We want you to know, feel free to take notes. You can take the SAT as many times as you want to. You can only take the ACT 12 times. So it's very important that you start your testing process as soon as possible to give yourself enough time to super score. The ACT and the SAT will take your highest score in each area. And so it's to your benefit to take those tests as many opportunities as you can and to prep correctly. Next slide. All right, so why do you need a game plan? Because I always tell the students life can either happen to you or for you, but either way, if you don't plan, it's going to be very difficult for you to self-correct. What do I mean by that? Some students that I worked with were like, I only want to go to this school. If I'm not accepted at this school, I don't want to apply to any other school. I always caution students to apply to more than one school because you may get into the school that you like and then find out after you do your visit that it wasn't what you thought it would be. And if you hadn't applied to any other schools, it's going to be very difficult as the time goes forward for you to try to do a late application process. Many of these schools will have made their scholarship decisions for early decision very early. And so applying now, like in May, to try to get a scholarship for August is almost unheard of. Next slide. All right. So what I want to share very clearly is what we do in our concierge services and what we do not do. We will help you. We will interview with you. We will try to help you find the correct college and the correct major for you. That may take 2 or 3 2-hour conversations to try to find out what the strengths are of the student. Sometimes there's a difference between what the students may think that they want to major in and what the parents may want to major in. But ultimately, in order to secure the most scholarships possible, you want to have a good match between the college that you're applying for and with the major that you intend to do. Now, when we're talking about internships, we try to make sure that every single student that's a part of this program has secured an internship that will lead to a high-paying job at the end of their cycle, but they have to be eligible to work in the United States. So for some students that we do get internships for in the very beginning, because they haven't finished their visa applications, they can't take that internship until the beginning of their sophomore year after they finish their freshman year. But I do want to be very clear. We do not guarantee at any time that any student can get 100% full ride scholarships at their schools of choice. Sometimes students will want a full ride scholarship at a school that they have not met the qualifications for. And if they haven't met the qualifications for that scholarship, even when I talk to the decision makers, their hands are very tied. I'll give you an example. If you are a student and you have a 1510 on the SAT, but you have a GPA that's a 3.0 and their scholarship requirement is a 3.5 GPA, even though your 1510 is a wonderful score on the SAT, you would not have met the GPA requirement. And so you would have been eligible for their full ride scholarship. Next slide. All right, I'm going to let Dr. Veriva Harris, who is one of my partners, speak with you. Dr. Veriva Harris has a 30-year track record in also working with international students, as I do, to make sure that these students have everything that they need. And so Veriva and I have been working together getting scholarships for students for years. She was the former vice president of student and academic services for Benedict College and helped me get hundreds of students full rides at Benedict's and also at many HBCUs and many PWIs. So she's going to talk about the new changes that have happened in the United States with international students. And I want you to be aware of those things because as we go through this process and we're pulling scholarships, there are things that you need to be aware of particularly when you're applying for your visa. So Dr. Harris, you are welcome to take over. Can you flip slides for us? Ms. Osame, I was just sharing a little bit about Dr. Harris. Like I said, she's a 30-year veteran, scholarship and admissions professional. She's also the executive director of the National Association of African American Athletes. And for those of you who have students that are interested in playing athletics, we do help with the NCAA clearance for international students. And we want to make sure that they are ready to be recruited both athletically and academically. Next slide. All right, Dr. Harris, you may take it over.
She's still in. It's like she's dropped off. No. I can't see her. Oh, she's there. Dr. Harris, you're there, but we can't hear you. Dr. Harris, I think she has a challenge with her internet.
Okay, she says that she's having an audio challenge, so I'll read her slides for you. This is the most recent information that she was able to pull from the U.S. Department of Education last week on the changes in scholarships that are going to be put in place for international students coming into the U.S. That may or may not affect the students that are applying with your program, but we want to make sure that you are aware because of the changing international tides, the U.S. Department of Education has changed some things. So persistent scholarship trends and the likelihood of receiving scholarships. As it stands right now with the U.S. Department of Education, only 1 in 8 college students receives a scholarship, with full ride scholarships awarded to just 0.1% of all students. So that is the standard right now for giving scholarships out globally. Next slide. All right, so award amounts. According to the U.S. Department of Education, among scholarship recipients, 97% will receive $2,500 or less. And Dr. Osame, you were speaking about that with your own daughter. That's usually the benchmark, is only getting $2,500 for each student that applies. Only 0.2% receive scholarships worth $25,000 or more, and full tuition scholarships are awarded to only 1.5% of students. And it is a miracle and wonderful that your students have come with such high standards, because your students are receiving, they're in that 1.5% of full tuition scholarship recipients, where even students in the US who have been working to try to apply to those schools have not been able to even get the full tuition scholarships that your scholars are getting. Next slide. All right. The good news is there's over $100 million in scholarships that go unclaimed each year. And so how that works for students that we have been working with that have gone through the first round of scholarships, we are still actively talking to decision makers, because sometimes students may choose to go to a school and change their mind at the last minute and decide not to go to that school. Well, their full scholarship then went back into the scholarship pool. And that's why, even though we have students that have full tuition scholarships that are working on their visas right now, we're still actively working with the decision makers for that unclaimed scholarship pot. Next slide. All right. So when I say growing hostility towards higher education in Congress, this is going on. If you're watching CNN as we speak, this impact between the Biden administration in the United States and the Trump administration is increasing hostility in Congress. So many of the elite institutions, the Harvards, the Yales, the Columbias. They are looking at legislation which is going to impact colleges and universities adversely. So many of these scholarships that used to be earmarked for international students or for Black, Indigenous, people of color students, many of the Ivy League schools have completely abandoned those scholarship pools for the upcoming school year and have also decreased their funding for Title I programs or programs to allow students to come to their schools who are not Asian American or European American. This reduction in funding for domestic students also affects the availability of funds for international students. So it is very rare from here on out that you will see what we call the full merit scholarship. If you haven't applied for that merit scholarship way back in August, going forward, merit scholarships may be even more difficult than the 1.5%. Next slide. Now, aid amounts. Full scholarships for international students are rare, according to the U.S. Department of Education. The average financial aid given is $533. Undergraduate schools were about $26,800 for last school year, with top schools providing nearly $7,700 on $77,000 on average. So when you're looking at the full tuition scholarship, when we are looking at these scholarship profiles, our first goal is to make sure that your tuition is paid for all of the time that you will be in school. Sometimes parents will only go for a 1-year merit scholarship, and then when they get their bill at the end of the second year, they are in debt over 150, 200,000 US dollars because they only asked for a full tuition, full room and board scholarship for the first year. Our goal is to make sure, first of all, that your tuition is paid for all 4 years. Some schools will give a room and board scholarship to international students, but that scholarship is only good for the first year. Next slide. Now, this is good to know. There has been an increase in merit-based aid and non-need aid. In the United States, when students are applying, they have Pell Grants and they have other programs that are just based on their financial need. And they also have the ability to apply for student loans. International students, for the most part, at most colleges, are not allowed to apply for FAFSA and student loans. However, some schools do have programs specifically for need for international students. So the trend from 2020, from 2001 to 2017, the University of Alabama is an example, and that's one of the schools that we have a great relationship with. They increased their non-need spending over $123 million to reflect a broader trend of universities using aggressive merit aid tuition incentives to recruit more out-of-state students. So you want to make sure that you are widening the colleges that you are applying for. And what we do once we have our initial interview, if there are colleges that we think would be a good match for you, we will always make that recommendation. I can use the trend also from 2017 to 2024 is that most colleges are looking for alternatives to replace institutional scholarships awarded to international students. That's where your internships become invaluable. Once you have gotten into school and we get you a good internship that first time, that sets up the ability for you to have assistantships. When we're having interviews, like for honors college, we're asking the deans immediately when the student arrives at the college, will they be able to do paid research with you? Will they be able to do research over the summer? Will they have assistantships for teaching? If you don't ask those questions upon admission, you sometimes will get lost, and many students will not have a strong enough resume when they are applying for their job or applying for graduate school because they have not looked at assistantships and teaching opportunities as soon as their freshman year. Next slide. All right. So how do you secure the best scholarship possible? Here are some tips that I think are very important. First of all, you want to start your college admissions early. The earlier, the better. When Ms. Osame tells you to get essays back, get them back so that they can be reviewed. And you may write 20 to 30 essays before this process is over. You want to pick your top 3 schools as close to August 1st as possible. You may apply to as many schools as you like. We have some students that apply to 10 schools, but you have to narrow down to 3. When we are reaching out to the decision makers, I only reach out to the decision makers at your top 3 schools because we have multiple meetings with each decision maker. You may have to do multiple interviews with decision makers. You may have to meet with deans. You may have to meet with department chairs. So even at that one school, you may have 6 additional meetings before they come to their final decision of how much additional scholarship money they're going to get. Also, make sure you prepare your resume. Your resume needs to be very, very tight. It is their opportunity to see all of the things that you have done up to that point. Many times, student resumes, they're not very strong. And when you send out a resume that's not strong after you've had a great interview, it can hurt your chances of getting additional scholarship money. And also be flexible and adaptable because there's a 5-month process for application. And then there's usually about 1 to 2 months of meetings back and forth. And then another 2 or 3 months for decision makers to make other decisions about internships and about additional scholarships. So just know that this is a process. It does not happen overnight. What normally happens once you first apply and you've been accepted, you'll receive an email that says that you've been accepted to the school. Even that email will give you directions on things that you need to do just to make the acceptance be valid. Once you are validly accepted, then you will start to get institutional scholarship emails. And you sometimes will have to go into your special portal at that school to accept that scholarship before they will look at other scholarships. So just know it's a very iterative process. Next slide. All right, so this is super important. Your academic performance has to be strong. So it is your GPA plus your test scores that get you full ride and merit-based and scholarship opportunities. If you have a high test score, but your GPA is not high, it will stop you. It will halt you in your ability. You may gain admission to a school through test optional, but it will be very difficult for you to earn full ride and merit-based scholarships. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about scholarship searches. All right, once you've narrowed down to your top 3 schools, then you want to go on that school's link and apply for all scholarships through their individual portal or web first. When we're talking to decision makers, their first question is, what is the student's unique identifier at that college, and have they completed our internal scholarship application? If you haven't completed their internal scholarship application, it is very difficult for them to pull your scholarship profile. One of the students that we worked with Dr. Osame, was able to talk to the vice president of the college. As soon as the vice president of the entire college, not of just his major, that dean reached out to the person in charge of international students and said, I need this person to have their scholarship profile increased. From that one webinar, that student scholarships increased from 2,000 to an additional 8,000 total from one webinar. If he had not completed his scholarship application, then when the international service provider would have said, well, we don't even know he's in the system because he hasn't done what he's supposed to do. All right, it's best for you to apply early, and you need to give yourself sufficient time to develop these relationships. What we normally do is send out blind copied emails to parents and students as they come in to let you know what is happening. I always ask that the parents not reach back out to the decision maker until they have decided that this is their number one school. Once the scholarship letters have been generated, then you are free to speak to anyone within that college system because you will already have your scholarship letter in hand. And we've done that with some of the students that have gotten scholarships thus far. You should ensure that you are positioned to get good scholarships. What I mean by positioned, 3.5 GPA, ACT score higher than a 28, SAT score in the 1400s. Next slide. All right. So I wanted to talk about SAT scores. The highest score that you can get is a 1600. Sometimes students will have like a 1200 and they have a 4.0 and they're like, I don't understand why I'm not receiving scholarships. It is very competitive to be able to get a scholarship. So when I say competitive, I graduated from the University of Southern California, USC. Last year, USC had 82,000 applicants for 8,000 slots. MIT is less than 3.6%. So when you have a 1200 or a 1300, you need to retake, you need to go back through SAT prep to try to raise your score. You can start the admissions process with a lower test score, but you want to be able to send them a higher score later. Next slide. All right. So our 5-week class we do in conjunction with global, so you can skip that slide. Our average score increases are 5 to 10 points on the ACT, 100 to 200 points on the SAT in 5 weeks. Next slide. All right. So why are extracurricular activities important for scholarships? I cannot stress this to you enough. You have to be a well-rounded applicant. There are hundreds of thousands of students that have perfect 1600 scores and have perfect 4.0 GPAs that do not get accepted to college at all on the US end. So globally, when you're looking at competing against 82,000 students that already have good scores and good grades, what sets you apart is the extracurricular things that you've done. So when they're looking at your applications, they're looking at activities, they're looking at how you showcase your interests, your skills, your leadership abilities, and more importantly, your commitment to their university community. In every interview that you will ever have, whether it's for honors college or an interview for scholarships, most of the time they will ask you, how do you see yourself contributing to our university community? And that's why when we're prepping students, I have you look at the person's resume that you're interviewing with, find out what they are interested in, find out what their research is about. At least know the mascot of the school that you want to attend, know how they're doing in sports, know what they're competing in academically. You want to be a part of the family of that community. And in your interview, if you're not stressing that, then they think, well, all you really want is a scholarship. But once you graduate, you don't even want to come back as an alumni. So you need to think about that when you're interacting with these decision makers. Next slide. All right. So here are some examples of relationships that you can have with extracurriculars. Like if you develop your own leadership program, if you do internships while you're in your high school years, if you are shadowing, if you want to be a surgeon and you shadow the surgeon, that's important. If you've been in academic competitions and clubs, you need to do more than just participate. You need to be documenting leadership and things that you may have won. If you're interested in arts and culture, you need to be documenting exhibits that you've done. If you're in sports, what sports did you compete in? Were you the captain of your team? Have you done any personal projects? Projects that could get notoriety for the school that you're about to apply to. And they will be looking for all of your online courses and any certifications. For those of you who are interested in tech or in computer science, they want to know, have you done HTML? Have you done Python? Can you code? Those things are super important. Next slide. All right. Other examples. When you're thinking about being well-rounded, you want to showcase your gifts and talents and things that differentiate your application from the rest. So here are some of the things that we've been able to help students to do to make them be well-rounded. Establishing a nonprofit, doing a community blood drive, starting your own business, being an SGA officer, assisting in a political campaign, organizing a citywide recycling program, developing a mentoring program for youth. We even had a student who wrote a poetry book right when they were applying. And one of the students that we worked with Dr. Osame that really got a scholarship, and it was really good for her. She's an international braider, and she talked about weaving her love of Nigeria into the fabric of their school. And the decision maker called me personally and said, I'm going to find a way for her to speak on behalf of our school. She doesn't even know it yet. So it's important that you understand that these decision makers are looking at you to showcase you when you first get to their school. Next slide. All right, here are some case studies of some of the students that we've worked with and examples of scholarships that you can get. Next slide. All right, Braden Turner was one of my students who was an athlete. As you can see, his SAT score was not all that high. It's very interesting that when you are applying to an Ivy League school, when you apply through the athletic route, the ACT and SAT scores are usually a bit lower than the requirements for a regular student. So usually on the SAT for an athlete for an Ivy League school, they'll be looking for 12s, 13s. So we got him an academic and an athletic scholarship. He saved $83,000 for 4 years. So that $83,838 was the cost of attending Northwestern per year. And so by getting him this full ride, we saved his family $335,000. Next slide. Now, there were some questions about how to secure graduate assistantships. And I want to stress this now. It's not too early for you to be thinking about getting a teaching assistantship or securing a research assistantship so that when you go to graduate school, you will already have experience. So when you're applying for these graduate assistantships, even an undergraduate, they're going to be looking at GRE scores, GMAT scores, and your GPAs. You want to make sure that you visited the college and the department and know what positions are available. You also want to showcase your value. And I brought this up now because if you think about it, if you had the opportunity to be a teaching assistant for the 4 years you're an undergraduate, you becoming a graduate assistantship for that same professor is a no-brainer. They know your work ethic. You already know how they teach their classes. That's just additional scholarship money for you. And you want to make sure that you are cultivating professional relationships. If I introduce you to a decision maker and you've had an interview, always respond to the decision maker with a thank you email. They keep up with those things, and that can open other opportunities for you. Next slide. All right. Here's some other things about graduate assistantships, because we also had some students here who were interested in being Ms. Osame's program for graduate school. You need to make sure you cover your bases, focus on your studies. If you're in anthropology, getting a graduate teachingship in engineering wouldn't make any sense. You want to collaborate with other graduate students, know the requirements that are necessary, customize your applications, and make sure that you do a spell check on anything that you submit to a school. That's on your resume, that's on your college applications. Always, always, always do a spell check. Next slide. All right. I want you to understand the value. If a school gives you a graduate assistantship, they are giving you a $40,000 job a year. That money comes directly to you. It can be put towards your school bill, or if you have a full scholarship, that money would come back to you as a refund. Next slide. All right, here are a list of some of the Ivy League schools that we've gotten full ride and merit-based scholarships from, and the amount of their original fees. So you see what these scholarships are worth. Harvard's $95,000 a year. Princeton's $52,000 a semester, which is roughly about $104,000 a year. If you're looking at Yale, UPenn, for the most part, for those of you who are interested in Ivy League schools, the budget is roughly about $100,000 a year for 4 years. If you're interested in like the UC Berkeley's, Caltech, USC, you're looking at about $85,000 to $90,000 a year. So our goal, we want to push for the maximum amount of scholarships possible, but we definitely do not want you to pay any tuition at all. We are guaranteeing that we are going to push as hard as possible to get you the maximum amount of money at the 3 schools that you have narrowed your search down to. Next slide. Here are just some other schools that you may be interested in: Vandy, Duke, NYU, University of Virginia, MIT, MIT runs about 206. We have students that have gotten full scholarships to MIT, and I am a researcher with the MIT Age Lab. So the students that are interested in MIT, we're securing them summer internships with the MIT Age Lab as well. We have relationships with Dartmouth, Brown, Georgetown, UF, Wake Forest. The list goes on and on. Next slide.
Okay, that's the last. Okay, I think that's done.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. That was really, really good. Thank you so much for all what you said. I think I love your, oh, I need to get you one of those as well, because I'm wearing something similar. That's called Adire. You know, the fabric you're wearing.
Yeah.
You know what it's called?
It was a gift for one of my students who just got a full ride scholarship. They sent it to me in the mail.
Oh, really? Awesome. I have to bring some for you, over for you.
Oh, thank you.
That's a traditional Nigerian outfit that we wear. It's not traditional, but we wear. It's called Adire. It's made from tie and dye, and it's really nice. Nice to see you in that. Great. Okay, thank you so much. That was awesome, exciting. I'm sure we have some questions, but before I go to the questions, Sylvester, are you around? Sylvester.
Yes.
Sylvester, okay, Sylvester. So Sylvester is one of Dr. Bell's clients and candidates, and he was able to do a bit of work. She was able to do a bit of work with him, particularly the honors college interview that he had to attend. So Sylvester, just tell us a bit for the benefit of parents and some students that are here, how the journey has been towards you getting admission. I know you really, really worked hard, and definitely. Just tell us a bit for the benefit of our participants who are here. What was the easiest? What was the hardest? How did you feel at the end of the day? And just give us a bit of your experience. Thank you.
Something before Sylvester starts. He's not going to brag on himself, but there were over 50,000 students that applied for honors college, and he got accepted to honors college at one of his universities that he was interested in. After the interview, he is one of, like, in that honors college, they're only letting in 20 students.
Wow, Sylvester, that's really good. Well done. He did very well, very well. Very impressed with him. Sylvester.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening, everyone. As Mr. Osima said, I'm a former or a current client of Dr. Bell and Ms. Osima, and I think they really helped me in this journey. So first of all, Ms. Osima and Dr. Bell really helped me to guide me on which schools to apply to. Dr. Bell in particular also helped me to understand the major I was going into, which was cybersecurity. The schools that offered as a major, those that offered as a concentration or specialization. Information was really the best thing I could have gotten, and Dr. Bell and Ms. Osima really provided that to me. They also helped me to plan for the interview with the honors college. Dr. Bell really took me step by step, showed me the points, did even additional research on my behalf. So in addition to what I did, he came in with prepared. I attended those interviews with confidence and had even the right answers to present. So it went well. I'm glad I was able to go into the honors college and was even accepted. So they really proved resourceful for me and my family. Yeah, thanks.
That's fantastic. And you know that all of those things that you went through with Dr. Bell has also prepared you to face the visa entry officer, because that's the great thing, because you have to do a lot of homework yourself. And by the time you get before a visa entry officer and you're telling them that you actually were accepted in the honors college and you got the scholarship, it really adds a lot to their confidence in giving you a visa. It really does help. So some of the work that you've had to do to understand the course you're doing, the university you're going to, it helps with the visa preparation, because it's one thing to get scholarship. The next thing now, we have to jump the hurdle for the visa. I know that we've had quite a few clients that have come that are American citizens. Some of our young people who we are helping are American citizens, but for some of our students, they're Nigerians. So Sylvester, what would you say to, your mom has spoken, but what would you say to your friends back in White Sands or your school? How would you advise them to prepare towards getting scholarship? Because it really does. What I say to a lot of students, a lot of young people in global, is that you are saving your parents millions and millions of naira, particularly because of what's happening in Nigeria. So how would you advise, or how would you advise parents to advise your friends that you know that were in school together? What did you do differently that got you to the stage that you were a great candidate to get a scholarship? Just tell us a bit about that. So that would help parents as well.
Okay, thank you. So, since this from our perspectives, I started heavily preparing for the SAT, especially after my wife. So I would say that I'm almost certain that if I hadn't committed myself to it, I probably would have gotten an average score, because so many people care for you. So they'll tell you to take it easy, I mean, you want to study, but you also want to realize, be with everyone. But you have to learn that if you have a goal, you have to do what you have to do to achieve it. It's also not about working hard, also working smart. So, like, for instance, watching a YouTube video, someone solving a question for an hour will make you know how to solve it. But watching a 10-minute video, then trying to practice for 30 minutes will really make the difference. So the first time I took the digital SAT, I got a 1430, and this was on the November SAT. And my result was released 2 weeks before my December exam, which was my real main focus. And I was already burnt out. But because I'd been doing this for 2.5 months, then I worked harder. So just the act of pushing and continuing, then the God factor is also incredibly important. I think that's what helped me get a 1510 barely 4 weeks after I took the last SAT. So I think the main point, right, I would give anyone who I wanted to advise is to work hard on your SATs, work hard for your for the both the math and English section. Then of course you'll be there. Then Dr. Valash there to guide them on the interviews, the essays. So my advice would be work hard and trust the process.
Great. So good to hear you talk that way. And I like the fact that you added the God factor, because in all of this, at the end of the day, it is God that will make a way and grant favor. So we have to do the hard work, and we also have to pray as well, which is what is a great combination of what you're doing. I don't know if your dad is around there somewhere. He wants to say a few words. Is he around? He wants to say hello to us. Huh?
I don't think he's available for now.
Okay, it's not available, no problem. Your mom had spoken earlier. So I just want to say a big thank you to yourself and your mom. And you've been one of the best clients that we had and worked very well with us. And I just wish you all the best with your visa interview. I know it'll go like a breeze because you've been properly prepared for this. And I know that you're going to be a champion for Nigeria. You're going to be a great ambassador when you get to the US, and you're going to do great things. And don't forget that Dr. Bell is always there for you, even in your journey as you go on. She's there as your mama in the US. So you can always send an email to her and say, Dr. Bell, can you just help me with this or that? Actually, one of the things that Dr. Bell helped us with recently was a young man who had finished at NYU, who had gotten a top score in NYU. He didn't come through us, but his sister is coming through us. And he hadn't been able to get internships or get a job, despite the fact going to an Ivy League. and getting a good GPA, close to 4.0. And she was able to tweak his resume, and now he has an internship and he's going to get a job. So Dr. Bell is able to accommodate. One great thing about her is that when I ask her, can you do this? She never says no. So I think she looks at it and says, whatever I can do to be a blessing to other people, I will be a blessing. So she's happy to help along the line, even when you get there. And for other parents as well, you know, when your children are there, you know, and you want to reach out to her for anything that you might need, she's there available as a resource. That's what's great about her. So thank you again, Sylvester. Thank you, Sylvester Mom. Thank you, Dr. Bell. I'll just now go and take questions. The last few slides that Dr. Bell spoke about was about graduates. I know we haven't done that much, but we've had requests from students who want to go and do their masters. And it's possible, in most cases, they get graduate assistantships, which is equivalent to the scholarship for graduates. And it's possible she can prep them for GRE, she can help them to do the same process for them to be able to get graduate assistantships, get jobs, and even sometimes maybe get scholarships. So if you have anybody, or you're a graduate, you're a student who has finished in university in Nigeria and wants to go and do your master's, we also help you to, you know, help you with that journey as well. So I would quickly sort of, and please, if you have any questions so that we can finish in a few minutes. I can see a question here that says, is Mr. Lawson, sorry, Mr. Michael around at all? I didn't see his name. I thought he was going to speak. I thought he was going to join us. How do we get holiday jobs for the kids? That's for Mr. Julius. I think it's not so much, it depends on the age. With a lot of young people, at least in global, a lot of parents have been able to get them to come to work with them. My children, when my children were in Nigeria, they used to come to Global to work during the holidays. Of course, volunteer work. So it was just getting them involved in an environment of a work environment. But they were able to put it on their resumes because they did come to work. So even if you have friends that they can go visit, rather than them sitting at home and being on social media, you can now get them to go to your friend or come to your office and just do some admin work, or if they have to work with social media, do social media marketing for you and different things. And then, because here there's I think it's after a certain age that you can actually get a proper job. Maybe at the age of 16 or 17, I'm sure that you can actually do an internship, a proper internship. My daughter was able to do an internship with Mobile, you know, so that really helped her. She has a job now with BlackRock. But these are the things that she did in Nigeria that got her that job. So a job is, getting experience is very, very, very important for our young people. So when they get over there, what they've done here is also important. So we're also working on connecting with corporate organizations to for internships for our students. We're working on that because we see how critical this is now, so they can take them on. There's so many organizations that do internships for 1 week, 2 weeks during the summer. So we're working on that as well from Global's end. Okay, let me see if I can see any other questions. Please, can you make available written deadlines for parents to have as reference times they can work on? Does that mean deadlines? Yes, when you become a customer, yes, or come to Global, we'll give you everything you need. All of those stuff will be given to when they sign on. So once they sign on for the bootcamp, once they sign on for the consultancy with Dr. Bell, everything will be given to parents. So everything is available. So that's why we put the links there. Thank you. That's from Augusta. Thanks, Ms. But you're such a wonderful person. Thank you. So thank you so much. I think that's it. I can't see questions. I do believe that this has been very beneficial to our members, I mean, the participants that joined us today. We try to cover our base as much as we can. And one thing is that we're going to be working very hard to ensure we're going to make sure students get the scholarship, but parents will help us to make sure they get the grades and work hard as well, and do the extracurricular and talk to secondary schools and secondary school owners to make sure that they participate during their term. And if you want them to come to Global, come to the camp, come to visit us, we would be happy to have you. And then we can talk about this. I'm always in the college most of the time. So you can always ask for me. I can have a chat with you, talk to you. Doris, you can put my number in the chat so that if parents want to reach out to me, to ask me any question you want to, feel free. Whether your children are in the US now or you have any challenge with them, Dr. Bell can help. Anything that you want us to help you with, we'll be very, very happy to do that. We're also going to have a UK and Canadian webinar also to look at scholarships. What we're trying to do is to reduce the cost for parents. That's what we're trying to do, because we know how difficult it is. But we also feel that it's important that young people get the opportunity to travel and go abroad. The journey that I went through with my children is why this is important for me, because if I didn't do the sacrifice I did, I mean, now they have their top jobs, they're working. Now I can relax, I don't have to be thinking of dollars. So I don't want Nigerian parents to be stressed out, trying to find what, and we don't know where this dollar thing is going. So as much as possible, Dr. Bell has promised she will work as hard as she can to get scholarships. Even if we cannot get full ride, we'll get the part scholarships, we'll get the 4-year tuition. That's what we're aiming, and that's what we got for all the students that we applied for, all got 4 years tuition scholarship. They all got it, every single one of them that went through. Apart from, she got it for them. So she's the best person to put you, talk to the decision makers and all of that and make sure that everything works out. So I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Bell for joining us. I know you're extremely busy.
We are still working scholarships. It's Memorial Day weekend in the United States, and I am still calling decision makers while they're on vacation. I was like, I money. So yes, still working on vacation.
Awesome. Thank you. I know that even Saturdays and Sundays, you reply my text. When my parents are on my neck, I push it on you and you try your best to not take the stress from us. But you have to understand that here, because of the dollar, a lot of parents are really, really, the money we're having to change to get just the dollars is a lot of money. And things are not as easy as it should be. So that's why we're just praying for our nation that things get easier and our universities also improve so that not everybody has to travel as well. So I'll just say thank you, and to Dr. Harris, right? Yes.
Yes, Dr. Harris.
Yes. We were not able to hear her, but I know next time. And thank you so much for the good work you're doing as well. Thank you for everyone that came. Thank you, Global, for all our friends that joined us from different parts of the world. Thank you for attending this webinar, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you, and God bless. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Dr. Bell.
Bye. Oh, now you see your face. You didn't show your face before. You are hiding yourself.
Thank you.
Looking beautiful as usual.
Girl, so all for your baby all left on Thursday because they have a long weekend until Tuesday here because we have Memorial Day weekend. And they're like, well, I was like, we'll talk on Tuesday. He's still interested. So back and forth between those two schools. So I should have some more information for you when they get back on Wednesday. They're all out right now.
Fantastic. That's great. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we're praying that we get more scholarship for you guys.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.